following program is sponsored by PokerStars.net. So far on the big game, the loose cannon came out firing,
Wins again.
Mr. Cannon has a really nice game.
leaving the pros with an identity crisis.
Starting to question who the professionals are here.
He's killing us.
He's making it look easy.
First he put Seaver on his heels,
It's like you're getting embarrassed.
Anyone else would be losing far more every single hand.
then had Tony G questioning himself.
Should have raised it.
Tony lacked the heart there to put the man to the test. What happened to Tony G?
Tonight, see if the cannon continues his barrage,
You're probably gonna end up around 400,000.
Now that would be a nice payday.
or will his fuse eventually blow out?
Goodness gracious.
Woo! The fireworks continue on the big game.
Oh my God.
This is the PokerStars.net Big Game.
Welcome to the biggest game in town from Las Vegas, Nevada. Alongside my partner Joe Stapleton, I'm Scott Huff, where tonight some of the world's best players continue to do battle for more than $750,000 in our state-of-the-art poker room.
Partner makes us sound like we're married. After adding $50K before tonight's show, Viffer's into the game for $150, and from the looks of things, he's also into the Matrix.
Tony G was up over $70,000 at one point. He's now sitting on what must look like a meager profit. He's up $20K.
If poker skill equated to the ability to grow a neck beard, everyone would know Scott Seaver is a genius, but he's taking a bath so far, stuck 50 dimes.
If Tony G was the hare in this race, Daniel's the tortoise, making a steady profit over the first two nights. He's up over $33,000.
You might recognize Bobby Sura from his time on the Rockets, Hawks, Pistons, Cavaliers, and Golden State Warriors. He's been mostly riding the bench here, quietly stuck 14K.
The loose cannon's name is Gonzalez Cannon. This 32-year-old from Sacramento has pledged any winnings will go towards assisting his family's recovery from their recent financial crisis. Gonzo's been dominating to the tune of $72,000, and he's with Amanda Leatherman.
Gonzo, you have not been afraid to get in there and mix it up this week.
Not at all. Not at all. I'm not afraid. I mean, I'm here to play my game. Everything is working well. I'm executing my game plan. I just want to continue to do it and bring it to him. I'm not afraid.
How do you seem to stay so calm, cool, collected all the time?
I don't know. I think I get it from my father. Sometimes I don't let my emotions get the best of me. Sometimes I can get irate and crazy, but I'm just focused. I'm here to play my game. This is the big game. I'm a loose cannon, so let's bring it.
All right, good luck.
Thank you.
The loose cannon is staked $100,000 to play. He keeps all money above the initial $100,000, and the loose cannon, who's won the most money at season's end, earns a North American Poker Tour passport worth $50,000.
We were all hoping you weren't coming back.
Yeah.
We were all hoping
We
you
were
weren't
pretty
coming
excited
back.
when you got me. Like, okay, now we got a game.
Voted you off the island.
It's all good. I wish they could vote me out right now. I'd be like, check, please, cashing out.
We'll start with hand number 64.
So this might be the most embarrassing thing I've ever done. But asking a loose cannon for change. Do you mind?
It's all good.
It's just Viffer's way of getting some of that lucky money away from the amateur, plus EV move.
Appreciate you.
Tony's straddled, so action will be on Viffer. 5-3 of hearts.
But I do qualify.
Don't you wish you had done it now?
No.
Calls. Cannon calls.
We're all pretty tense here. We're all financially trying to hold on to what we've got.
Sura folds. Daniel with 5-4.
Oops.
He's in. Seaver's
All
out.
right.
Seaver.
We're all a little tense
I'm
here.
not going to extend myself anymore.
Oh, Seaver folded for 400.
I'm shocked they got checked. I'm shocked they got checked.
Yeah, okay.
9-3 queen, a couple of clubs. Daniel misses and checks. Tony checks middle pair, and Viffer checks bottom pair.
Check.
Cannon's good with a check as well.
No one wants this pot getting any bigger with these pieces of cheese.
Turns the jack of clubs. Daniel checks.
Tony already had the best hand, picked up a ton of outs to improve.
He checks.
Check.
Viffer checks, and it checks around.
92% equity for Tony in a three-way pot, not bad.
King of clubs on the river, and Tony's made a straight and a flush.
That's now 100% equity.
And he checks it. Viffer checks to the cannon.
3,000.
He's not afraid to bet it. Makes it 3,000.
The cannon's trying to steal this, but I don't think he's going to get Tony G to fold the third nuts.
You know there's a flush out there, right?
I believe I do.
I fold.
Whoa.
Like Daniel said, what happened to Tony G?
The pros are giving mad credit to the cannon all week.
This feels like the time that he's.
I have so much sympathy.
Even Viffer's got him beat with a pair of
It
threes.
feels like the time though that it could be good.
It is good.
I have a lot
feels-
of sympathy.
It feels like I'm not. I mean, but if
But he folds it.
I just folded the third nuts, so
Wow.
10 of clubs.
You did not fold the 10 of clubs.
Yeah.
Why? Why doesn't no one want to see him look him up?
I would
Because I know I'm beat. I don't know. What's the point? Put 3,000 in?
Because he's so nitty, he never bluffs, probably.
I don't think he would bluff then. I don't know. It doesn't feel like he was bluffing. So if he's bluffing us here, I mean, this is phenomenal.
And Cannon the Cannon has got these pros befuddled.
Here are the rules of the big game. Each table lasts exactly 150 hands. The action pre-flop is pot limit and then no limit after the flop. Blinds are 2 and 4 with a $100 ante, all of which is paid by the player on the button. And every player begins with at least 100,000 but can rebuy for up to 500K.
A winning loose cannon, however, does not have the option this season to come back for a second week.
I can't win.
I think you can.
Well, this cannon's got Tiger Blood action on Gonzo. 10-4. Folds.
I don't know him here.
Bobby Sura so still he could hide from a T-Rex.
Action on Seaver. 4-6.
Entertain us with stories then.
Folds.
Make yourself useful.
They're not made for TV.
Neither are Viffer, so that doesn't stop him.
Action on Tony G. Ace-8.
1,200.
Raises to 12. And Viffer calls.
Viffer's dominated, but he's actually in position small to big.
2 players to the flop. 9, Ace-9, and Viffer is not dominated anymore. Flops trips.
Top pair versus trips. This is pretty unlucky blind versus blind.
Tony bets 2,000 and Viffer calls.
Playing it slow.
7 of clubs on the turn. Tony's still in real bad shape. He checks it. And Viffer checks. 8 of clubs on the river. Full house.
That 8 doesn't improve Tony's hand at all, but it does change the board texture quite a bit.
Tony's firing 6,000 into Viffer.
Viffer's filled up, but the club is going to kill some of his action.
The only real question now is how much will he raise?
WWDDR.
2 fisting it to 24,000.
There's plenty out there that could beat Tony.
That is not good.
Tony dumps his 3 pair. Viffer's going to take a decent-sized pot. Tony G got away relatively unscathed, thanks in large part to Viffer, who's still down more than 52,000.
While Viffer's 30% VPIP puts him middle of the pack, he's really burning himself post-flop. Vif's table-low aggro factor of 0.9 shows that he's been extremely passive and isn't building pots, which likely explains why his wins at Showdown have been a paltry $7,200.
That's not a usual response you get? People look at you and go,
From the ladies.
The ladies go, whoa.
what about the people in prison?
I'm guessing they also go, whoa.
Action on Bobby Sura, 6-5. He's out. Daniel folds. King, Ace King. Big slick for Seaver. Raises to 1,200. Computer hand for Tony. He calls.
Suited.
Viffer calls, and the cannon's out.
How much would you pay? How much would they have to pay you to spend a year in prison?
I don't know enough about prison to answer that, but
3 to the flop. 8, 8, 6.
Depends what type of prison. Minimum security, medium, maximum.
Medium security.
Medium.
Viffer checks, as do Scott and Tony.
1 year in protected custody. Let me see.
Not protected.
Yes, it would be.
To the turn. 7 of spades. Tony makes a pair.
As soon as they steal my store, I'd be like, hey, hey, guards.
Daniel will just have a little bell he'd ring.
Viffer checks. So does Seaver. Tony bets 3,000.
Tony G has quietly turned the best hand.
Viffer's out.
Ace King will sometimes be the best hand in this spot. Not now, though.
Seaver calls with the ace high. But will he win with it? River, the deuce of diamonds.
No help for Scott.
Checks. Tony bets 5,000. And Scott quickly calls.
8s and 7s.
If Scott thought ace high was good on the turn, there was a good chance he was good on the river.
And Scott sheepishly mucks his cards as Tony G drags a pot worth more than $20,000.
Meanwhile, Scott Seaver is in a prison of his own.
The Scott Shank redemption. If you want to appear on the big game and be a loose cannon, log on to PokerStars.net. There are free qualifying tournaments every day. Don't go away. The big game is just taking off. Welcome back to the big game. We're on hand number 68 of the 150 for the week.
If you had $2.5 billion or $4 billion, is your life changed at all?
Yeah, here's the difference. We're sitting at the poker table and we're talking, and there's a few guys with like 500 million, 600 million, and one guy that's like a multi-billionaire. And the one guy goes to the other one, the guy with 500, 600 million, he goes, well, what's the difference? And the billionaire goes, your yachts, you got your Picassos, you got all this, your art, your airplane's nicer and everything else.
Daniel folds, Seaver Jack 10, raises.
What, do you have a point to this story?
I do have a point to this story.
I've got like a gold-plated airplane.
The other guy goes, forget about that. He goes, you could get caught cheating on your wife more.
You can get caught cheating on your wife more?
Because it don't hurt as much.
Viffer in the cannon call.
Well,
That's silly.
Well, the way you really said it was not as,
PG?
Yeah, I gave you the PG version of it.
Oh, so that's why the story sounded so weird, like watching Die Hard on cable. Yippee-ki-yay, monkey fooler.
Deuce 6 ace rainbow on the flop. Cannon checks.
Cannon checks a gut shot.
Seaver checks. Viffer bets top pair. Cannon quickly calls with his gut shot.
Very loose call from the cannon.
Seaver folds. The two guys with the most nicknames to the turn. King of spades.
Well, the cannon's halfway to backdoor spades.
Cannon checks. Now Viffer slows down and checks.
Not sure why Viffer checked, maybe for deception.
6 of hearts misses the cannon.
Check.
He checks.
Somehow the cannon knows this isn't the best spot to try to make a play.
And Viffer bets out 15,000.
Which is almost twice the size of the pot, a huge overbet. And the cannon's got nothing.
Hit that 6, huh? Bet with the 6 and hits it on the river.
Gonzo's got the second nut low. He's selling the Viffer on a tough laydown.
I believe it.
Cannon folds. And Viffer's going to drag a pot worth almost 24,000.
I could not have a 6 with that.
Sure you can. Jack 6 of clubs, very playable hand.
And he gets him to give away the information. Maybe Gonzo's a genius.
So it is possible to beat you a pot. Okay.
Yeah, when he has 5 high.
You gotta bet 15 into 4.
Slam it.
Action will start here on Viffer. Nine, 10. Out. King Jack of diamonds for the cannon. Raises.
I wasn't soliciting to come on here and lose my money to you guys at all. Trust me.
Oh, what? Hey, oh, hey, sorry, forgot you were there, Bobby.
8-7 for Daniel.
Daniel is in position.
He gets frisky and raises to 4,000.
Daniel likes attacking the cannons, and that's what he's doing with this move.
Seaver and Tony G fold, and the cannon calls.
With no hesitation, the cannon calls OOP, which is actually 3/4 of the way to oops.
2 players to the flop. 8, 3, 9, 2 clubs. Daniel makes a pair. The cannon checks.
This pot's already mighty big. Will Daniel pump it up some more with a C-bet?
Nope, he checks. Turn the 8 of hearts, and Daniel's made trips.
We've seen the cannon lead a lot of turns. This would be a bad time to get aggressive.
But he does it anyway, bets 6,000.
If Daniel didn't hit that 8, this would probably be a good card to bluff at, but as it stands, the cannon is drawing stone dead.
And a healthy raise from Daniel to 19,000.
The size of this raise tells me these guys don't really have a solid read on the cannon because I'm sure Daniel would much rather Gonzo stick around, but at this point, he's really only got one move. That was the move I was talking about, into the muck.
And Daniel's going to drag a pot worth over 34,000.
That's just his 4th scoop in the last 43 hands.
And the wins have come few and far between this week for Negreanu, but Daniel knows that to be successful in the long run, you've got to stay one step ahead of your competition.
I've always been a person to say that, you know, I was never going to sit back and rest on my laurels and be the guy who's like, oh, yeah, I've got this game figured out. The day you think you've got it mastered is the day you become a losing player. So in order to stay ahead of the curve, you've got to stay current, and you've got to, like, keep up with the changes and just the sophistication of the game. The internet poker's changed the game forever, and these guys play a much more sophisticated brand of poker, really. Bet sizing, they understand better, and the best way to get better, really, is to play online, and I've been sort of rededicated to doing that. There's so many training sites and software and shows like this where people can really learn how to play very quickly. But I think when the luck evens out, maybe I'll get the best of them in a few pots.
You know, that's not all Daniel does online. In fact, I have his browser history here. There's Fox Sports, a fantasy hockey league, a vegan cookbook, a survivor forum, Huff's Facebook page, a page about Mounties, and 1,000 Google searches for Daniel Negreanu.
And an iPad app to change the color of the lights on the stage. And the cannon's straddled here. He's going to kick it up. So the action will start on Bobby Sura. Pocket threes. He just calls.
Typically, you want to raise when you're entering pots, but if you want to keep it cheap with a baby pair, calling's all right.
Ace-9 for Seaver. Calls as well. 8-4 for Tony G.
The way I'm squeezing.
Completes.
Oh, gosh.
And Viffer calls. Action back to the cannon. King-Queen.
This would be a great spot for a raise, but it's a tough trigger to pull.
And he checks. Almost a family pot here as we go to the flop.
Daniel, the black sheep of this family.
5-Jack-9. Tony checks, as does Viffer over to the cannon.
Cannon's got 2 overs and a gut shot.
And he bets it, 2,000.
Daniel, you played a lot of limit poker, right?
Yeah.
And a lot of no limit, right? You played both.
Action on Bobby.
What?
Now, when you see guys,
I always wonder what the way stops, and I think the point's over.
Bobby folds.
Good talk, Viffer.
Yeah, your stories are kind of long. You need it like sharp and bang.
Seaver calls. Tony folds, and Viffer folds.
This family getting smaller by the second.
Now it's just the cannon and Seaver heads up to the turn. Jack of hearts. Cannon bets 5,000.
Cannon's firing again in a spot where a lot of people would be scared. Will Scott Seaver be the one to finally stand up to the amateur who's never played remotely this big in his life?
Does the cannon ever stop firing? And Seaver calls.
Well, Scott, he is a cannon.
River's the 4 of spades.
Cannon's only shot is to bet at this, but nothing really hit the river that should change things all that much for Seaver.
And he fires a third barrel, 8,000 into Seaver.
This bet's for less than half the pot. Scott may think if he truly had a jack, he'd probably try to bet more. Plus, Scott's made way thinner calls than this one. If he does call, it could potentially be very damaging to the cannon's table image.
He does.
Good call.
And the cannon shows him the attempted bluff.
And Scott Seaver, the professional, finally stands up to Cannon, the amateur.
Good call.
Thank you.
Good bluff. That was a great bluff. That is a really, really tough bluff. When you had to bet to win the pot. Now we know you've been bluffing every hand.
That was the first time I bluffed and I got picked off.
First time you bluffed? Wow.
Is that the truth?
Yeah.
There's no point to lie.
Really, Gonzo?
No, he's
Hey,
not.
you say
He's
that. I got first time I got caught. I mean,
First time he got caught now.
That's a few misfires in a row for Cannon squared.
The pros finally seem to be taking a stand. See if he adjusts his game or gives back all his profits after this.
Welcome back. Do you think you can beat this game? For a chance to be a loose cannon and play on the big game, log on to PokerStars.net. There are free qualifying tournaments every day. Now let's get back to the action.
You can also see bonus hands, extra stats, as well as behind-the-scenes footage and moments deemed too hot for TV on the website.
We have a website?
Gonzalez Cannon, a.k.a. Gonzo, is our loose cannon, and also an apt description of what's happened to around 30,000 of his chips since the start of the night. He'll be in the big blind this hand.
The man's playing pretty good poker. Pretty good poker. You got the all-around game.
I will say this, he's playing poker, I'm playing cards. I feel outclassed.
Action on the NBA, or Bobby Sura folds.
Now I know why they call a basketball a rock.
Negreanu folds over to Scott Seaver. 10-9. Thinking about raising, but just calls.
So that's just because I want everybody in the pot. I'm not gonna raise too much.
Look, he didn't even look. He was going to fold for 2 more.
Tony G does it for him, makes it 12. Viffer's out, over to the cannon, and he calls.
That's a pretty loose defend, and he's out of position again.
Seaver comes along.
That's caring.
Caring is sharing.
8 deuce jack on the flop. Cannon's got bottom pair. He checks. Seaver checks his straight draw, and Tony checks.
Bottom pair is the best hand.
5 of hearts on the turn. Cannon checks.
No longer the best hand for the cannon. Tony G picks up a pair. Scott Seaver open-ended still.
Checks over to Tony.
I connected on that 5er.
Makes it 3,000. Cannon calls.
Oh, that was a quick call.
Tony honest that the 5 hit him. Cannon practically beat him into the pot with bottom pair.
Seaver's going to call with the draw.
Let's pair the board for me.
To the river, 4 of clubs.
And the cannon river's a wheel. Draw.
Doesn't fire this time. Checks it over.
Scott Seaver's got a total air ball. It looks like he knows he can't win by checking.
And he's reaching for chips. Gutsy play here. Bets out 6,000.
Scott's trying to rep the flush.
Gets Tony to lay it down.
Scott gets Tony to lay down the hand that has the loose cannon beat, and now the LC actually has Seaver beat. If he calls, he looks like a genius thanks to Scott.
But he folds.
Got it through?
He always does that.
All right, show it then. Show it.
Scott got away with one there.
Yeah, it's not even fair.
I mean, you'll all see it.
All right, changing gears.
Which one are you headed to now?
I'm about to kick it up here.
Kick it up? Kick it up higher.
I don't think that's true.
No, I'll give him a chance to kick it up.
Boom, straddle. Consider it kicked up.
Doubt that Scott has the cannon's best interest at heart.
Here's a chance for you to kick it up now.
All right.
I appreciate that.
Meanwhile, Gonzo's profit has dwindled to right around 40,000.
Queen deuce for Tony. Folds. 10-9 for Viffer. Out.
Let's kick it up.
The cannon. A 6.
Sure, why not? Let's do 22.
Cannon kicks it up to 2,200.
Sura folds again.
Daniel. 6 tray of clubs.
Oh, Daniel wants to play so bad.
Ask and ye shall receive.
Bible quotes from Seaver.
I don't remember Seaver asking to be dominated, which he is.
And he calls.
Seaver defending a straddle.
Flop is Jack 10-5, 2 spades. Action on Seaver.
Boy, he did not catch any of that flop.
He checks.
And for once, the cannon's the one in position.
Bets his ace. It's worth 4,000 to him.
Good spirit, good heart. There's a lot of good positive things, but they're not enough to get.
They're not enough to overcome.
And Seaver mucks. The cannon's going to drag a pot worth almost 10,000 and stop the bleeding a little bit here.
Gonzo plays this one perfectly in position, bluffs it with the best hand.
So we continue with hand 76, and the action will be on Tony G.
One drunken night, I was headed to that chapel. Luckily, it was closed.
Wonder who he went with.
Jack 7 for Tony. He folds it. Pocket 4s for the Viffer.
20,000.
It's a bad beat.
And he just calls. Gonzalez, cannon. Ace, queen. Raises to 1,400. Bobby's out.
Could have been a married man.
I don't complain.
King 9 for Daniel.
I was once.
He's out.
How did that go?
She asked me to go play pool with her and her boyfriend the other day.
Seaver
That
calls.
was funny.
Well, see, you could have got a days of practice in.
Yeah.
As does Viffer. 3 to the flop. 10 deuce jack, 2 clubs. Scott Seaver's picked up a pair.
Seaver outflops everyone with his only live card.
Worth a bet, 4,000.
He donks it.
Viffer's out. Cannon quickly calls.
This guy floats more than a Macy's Thanksgiving balloon. I got 1 million of them.
4 diamonds on the turn.
Oh, Viffer would have turned a set.
Seaver checks. Gonzalez, cannon, 8,000.
Cannon is still firing. Last time he tried this against Seaver, it did not work. Will Scott think him capable of running a bluff twice? There are a ton of draws out there.
Seaver makes the right call.
I wonder if Gonzo will put the brakes on if he misses.
River, the 3 of diamonds, changes nothing. Seaver checks again.
Cannon's been using his position well this hand, and it looks like he's loading up another barrel. If you're going to go for it, you got to go all the way.
12.
All right, he is no longer the Cannon. He is now officially Gonzo. He has bet 12,000 here on a bluff again.
The last time the Cannon fired less than half the pot in the river, he was bluffing. Scott Seaver sniffed it out. Scott has to decide if Gonzo would make this exact same move again. Another picked off bluff here would be super damaging to the Cannon's stack and his mental state.
But Scott can't do it. He folds to the bluff. And the Cannon rights the ship, dragging a pot worth 41,000 bucks.
You have met your match, Mr. Seaver.
Scott's not going to like seeing that one on TV.
I was pretty certain to have the best hand, and then it turned out I didn't.
Oh, but you did.
But you lack the heart and commitment.
Not your best, Tony G, Scott.
I thought it was decent. So the Cannon's headed back in the right direction. More big game after this. Welcome back to the big game. We're halfway home, and so far, the Loose Cannon and Daniel Negreanu sit atop the leaderboard, while Viffer and Scott Seaver are on the wrong side of the 50-50 club.
Although Gonzo's come off some tonight, he's still the biggest winner so far, and remember, if the Cannon finishes positive after 150 hands, he keeps anything over 100 grand.
All right, Joe. So far, the Loose Cannon's established his presence at the table. How has he gotten off to such a hot start?
Well, Scott, while most of the Cannons came out playing Skurd last season, Gonzo's been quite comfortable playing with someone else's money. He has the highest VP/IP at the table and is taking advantage of the fact that Sura and Negreanu are rocking up, probably due to having 3 action junkies directly behind them. This dynamic has allowed the Cannon to see more flops and also make plays post-flop.
In the past, the pros have generally pushed Loose Cannons around pre-flop. Why has this Cannon been able to play so many hands?
Since the table's just calling the majority of pre-flop raises, it's created better odds and enticed more players to come along.
The Cannon's at an alarming 44% ahead of Seaver and the G, and since just calling is so in this week, it's allowed Gonzo to see his fair share of flops. And, lest you forget, there's also been a lack of 3-bets. While Seaver leads things at only 13%, you'll notice that Gonzo and Viffer have yet to put in a pre-flop repop.
Without much 3-betting, there's less targeted isolation of the Cannon.
So Gonzo's really benefited from seeing flops with marginal hands.
Exactly, and perhaps the reason why they seem to be a bit gun-shy versus the Cannon is that Gonzo's tabled the winning hand 75% of the time. Since it looks like he always has it, he's gotten away with quite a few bluffs as well, winning over 146K without a showdown.
Now who's going to step up and try to slow the Cannon down?
Good question, Scott. Everyone should be putting Gonzo to the test more. In particular, the usually aggressive Seaver and Viffer have been quite passive post-flop. Their aggro factors rank 5th and 6th respectively. That could partly be to blame for both of their 50K losses. If they want to win the big game, they'll have to channel their inner high school cheerleader and be aggressive. Be aggressive.
We'll continue with hand number 81. Scott Seaver is under the gun without much to cheer about. Maybe now. Ace-10 of clubs. Calls.
There's some of that limping we were just talking about.
Ace-7 suited for Tony. Raises to 1,300.
Thank God Tony G is here.
Viffer's in. Cannon out. Over to Bobby Sura. 4-10. Folds. Daniel's out.
Scott Seaver not folding.
He is not. He makes the call. 3 to the flop.
Scott's actually got both these guys dominated.
6, 7, 9. Couple of diamonds. Tony G's made a pair.
And just like that, Tony's ahead.
But it checks around. 7 of clubs on the turn. That's trips for Tony.
No help for Seaver's gut shot, which is a good thing because if he made it, Viffer would have him crushed.
And he checks it. 4,000 from Tony. Back on Viffer.
Viffer's got outs, but in his mind, they could be dirty.
Looks like you are in his mind.
It's your favorite hand.
He lays it down.
8-10 of diamonds.
Viffer knew Tony's favorite hand like they're married.
That'd be some wedding photo.
I'm live against that.
Wow, that's not good for me.
And Seaver calls. 3 of clubs on the river.
Total air ball for Seaver.
Checks it.
How much is that?
Tony makes it 8,000.
This is a testament to reputation. Scott now contemplating a river call with a hand worse than one he folded to the loose cannon earlier in the session.
Help me out. It's been
I don't know. I have no idea what you got.
what do you got though?
Well, what do you think? I mean, obviously I have something.
What do you have? Help me. You want to help me. I can tell you want to. So just give me a little advice, and I'll trust you.
Ace 10 of clubs.
You have ace 10 of clubs? Yeah. If I show my hand, it's not dead or anything, right?
No, it's not dead for sure.
Okay.
Liar, liar, fence on fire. All right, ace 10 of diamonds.
I'm legitimately thinking.
Ace 10 of diamonds.
This is not me just messing around.
I can't believe this might work.
What should I do? After that,
you should call. That's an omen to call.
There's more levels going on here than your average Carnival cruise ship.
Tony G does sound like a magician's name. Seaver calls.
Not a good call. Not a good one.
It's February Sage.
You knew when he called your hand and then you turned it over, it was like you knew you were calling and like it's the worst ever. Like if he would have said like Queen Jack of Hearts, you would have folded.
Tony G drags a pot worth almost 30,000.
Tony, if you and me are ever in a hand, can we please not talk? Just so you don't mind like me.
That's worth the admission ticket.
You got Jedi. You just got Jedi mind tricked.
Welcome back to the PokerStars.net big game. We've reached hand 83 of the 150 to be played this week.
Can you guys turn off the mic? Because I have a question to ask Tony, but I want nobody to hear. Do you give lessons? Can I get a private lesson?
Viffer still impressed with Tony G inducing a bad hero call from Scott Seaver.
Action on Viffer, couple of 10s. Raise it to 12. Cannon out. Folds around to Daniel. 4-10 of diamonds, he's out. Up to Scott Seaver, 5-7 of clubs.
A juicy suited one gapper for any ladies stuck watching is just as cool as a regular juicy suit.
And Seaver calls. Ace-8 for Tony. He's in. Three-way action to the flop. Queen 3-7, a couple of spades. Seaver with a pair, checks it. As does Tony. Checks around. 5 of spades on the turn. Now 2 pair for Scott Seaver.
Juicy.
Checks, and Tony's the one betting. He's in dead last.
Let's see if I qualify.
If you qualified, you have to call.
Losing, but qualified.
I'm trying to reach out and hit that pot still. Better check.
Viffer calls.
Whoa.
Scott may want to raise for value and protection, especially with his stack size.
Guess you qualified.
I'm all in.
Could qualify for a home loan with that bet. He's all in, 34,500. Tony's out.
I have no draw and no pair.
Viffer checked the flop, gave Seaver a free card.
I have a pair and a draw.
A flush draw here.
And they're probably both dead.
Viffer's actual equity is just shy of the right odds to call.
Could be making a move.
But he lays it down.
That's the Scott Seaver I know and love.
It's a Scott Seaver that Scott Seaver knows and loves. He's going to drag a pot worth 46,700 and start to climb out of that hole he's built for himself on the first couple of nights.
Do you like the movie Knocked Up?
Good movie.
You like the movie Observe and Report?
Some of my better work.
Of course, they're talking about actor Seth Rogen, Joe. What do you think?
Well, Huff, I'd have to say these two gingerbeard men are one pair of hipster glasses and a movie career away from being separated at birth.
What if we knock it up a little bit?
Boom, there it is. Identical twins. We've got the Green Hornet and the guy trying to hoard some green.
Yeah, but he's still got a ways to go if he wants to get back to even. We'll continue with hand number 85, and the action's on Bobby Sura. The former NBAer, King Jack.
I had a weird feeling you were going to play this hand.
Calls.
I didn't think you were going to limp, though. I thought you were just going to come out and just fire at it. But
Never mind that.
We don't want to take that sort of a risk. Let's see what develops.
Slow and steady wins this race.
Bobby Sura finally plays a hand, and it's under the gun, and he comes out limping.
Folds to Tony G, 4 deuce off. He's raised it to 1600. Viffer with suited connectors calls. Ace Jack for the cannon.
Gonzo's got Sura dominated.
He makes the call.
Like everybody's chasing me.
Trained pigeon.
Let's see if Sura gets in there. He's been playing tighter than Shaq in a size 11.
And Sura makes the call. 10 deuce 3 rainbow. Viffer checks his gut shot. Cannon checks. And a check from Sura.
You had a long think about that. What were you thinking about?
Half asleep right now. Late night last night.
Now Tony's having a long think. He does have the best hand, and he's in position.
All right. See what develops.
And Tony checks. 8 of hearts on the turn.
Somehow a deuce is still good, and no one picked up any more outs.
Viffer checks. Cannon checks.
Not quick enough.
I'm gonna bet it now.
Sura 2. Tony G makes it 6,000.
Tony's got 60% equity with bottom pair and a 4-way pot, which is ridic.
And everyone folds.
Just so you know, I'm not like bluffing. I'm playing good hands. I definitely qualified.
G was qualified. Qualified. Clearly Deuces was the nuts there.
I made sure.
You can't turn 2 pair or nothing, can you, Tony?
No.
Just once, you know? Just once or good.
Tony takes down a pot worth 13K.
And I made it safe.
Made it real safe to turn.
I waited. Yeah, I waited for the turn.
You do everything perfect, believe me. You have no idea.
Actions on Daniel.
You think you know. No idea.
Folds.
Real life story.
Seaver, deuce 6.
Limited ability, but just a good sense and good timing.
He's out.
Real good timing.
10 deuce for Tony G.
It's not my fault.
Raises.
I'm gonna play every pot till I win a hand. I might lose everyone.
Viffer calls. And Sura's out.
But if you don't qualify, you got to fold.
Tony's good timing continues. He's not too far behind against Ducks, considering how bad his hand is.
Ace 4-9.
2,000.
Tony bets 2,000 and is quickly called.
By the way, I knew this was coming on both sides.
Who's the favorite now?
I have no idea.
Not you, not you, not you.
Queen of clubs on the turn. Check, check.
Pretty sure Gonzo's going to win this hand somehow.
Good one.
Jack of hearts on the river.
The way it's going, I'm pretty sure you're going to find a way.
Tony checks and Viffer bets 4,000 quickly.
No, 10 deuce didn't come in.
10 deuce didn't come? I wasn't bluffing.
Tony folds.
You got a 4-5?
Oh my God. Why couldn't I bet the river? Should have just raised the river.
We'll never know if that would have been enough to get Viffer's Ducks out of the water. More big game on the way.
You know, the loose cannon makes the Thursday, Friday episode so much more exciting, especially if they're stuck a little bit, because everyone knows it's like sharks, you know, da-da, da-da. So it's a bunch of wolves all hungry for the same exact piece of meat. And I'm a vegan, right? But I still like loose cannon meat. It's yum.
Well, I hope loose cannon meat is made out of soy like Fakin' Bacon, Mr. Vegan. No one's even sniffed loose cannon meat yet. Gonzo's currently leading the table with a profit of over $53K.
At one point, he was up over $75,000. Let's see if he loses some of his aggression. The action will start here on Scott Seaver. He's UTG with King 6. Folds. Over to Tony G. Quack, quack.
Tony's turn with deuces.
Raises.
I want a hand. I don't have to play this one. I fold.
No, with deuces.
Viffer's out. Cannon calls with King Jack. Sura's out and over to Daniel. 7-8 offsuit.
Sometimes a playable hand.
But he folds it.
Daniel not his usual active self this week.
9 Queen 6. Cannon's flopped a gut shot. But Tony G bets his Ducks 2,000 and the Cannon quickly calls.
Sometimes a quick call can be indicative of a draw.
9 of spades on the turn and the Cannon picks up a flush draw as well.
Tony still best.
Tony bets 4,000. Cannon quickly calls.
He's just going for it.
Gonzo's also got hidden counterfeit outs.
To the river. 3 of clubs. Brick. Tony G checks now.
Gonzo didn't get there, but the club draw did come in. The only way he can win this is to bluff at it.
And he's more than happy to. Bets 9,000 into Tony G.
Well, Scott, this cannon has not let up on the aggression. You can tell Tony doesn't want to believe the amateur has the best hand again. I will say one thing for our loose cannon. He's just like the Fonz. And what's Fonzie like?
Cool.
He's cool.
Now let's see if Tony can figure this cannon out.
He folds.
I might lose to a bluff. That's
I knew I wanted to.
Tony gets bluffed.
Nice hand, Gonzo.
Hey.
don't remember it.
So through 87 hands, Gonzalez Cannon is now up more than $61,000 and really been mixing it up for a loose cannon, Joe.
He is both loose and a cannon, and in comparing his VPIP to the highest LCs from last season, Gonzo has been much more active. His 47% tops all loose cannons by a decent margin. Andre Capella went broke on hand 89, and only Bobby Ferdinand and Ernest Wiggins eventually profited playing this style. So it'll be interesting to see if this cannon can get paid off in the end as well.
The best place to eat in Vegas, seriously.
Musashi?
Yeah, it's a
Have you
Japanese.
ever eaten at Musashi?
It's up to Tony G.
No, the thing is, the guys there, they cook it with passion.
Folds.
They
You know,
cook it
live
with
for
the
it.
passion. He knows everything.
Tiger's the best.
Best.
Viffer raises to 1,200.
That's his name. He's the owner.
The owner.
Cannon calls. Folded around to Daniel. He's out. 9-6 of clubs for Scott Seaver.
I mean, it wouldn't be that good a place if it wasn't for Tiger, I feel.
Calls.
Plus, the food's just super good.
And it's not expensive. It's
3 players to the flop. 8 king, ace, 2 diamonds, and 2 pair for the cannon.
Why does Tony care how much it costs? He's Tony Gazillionaire.
Seaver checks it over to Viffer
Viffer with a gut shot.
and bets it. Cannon calls 2,000 over to Seaver.
in all the time. You qualify all the time. Cam.
Folds.
He's a qualifier, this guy.
Yeah, he qualified online to be a loose cannon.
Turn the 9 of hearts. Cannon still in the lead. Viffer checks. Cannon fires 6,000.
That was a pretty safe turn card. Good time to get some value.
Viffer folds, and the cannon wins another.
Keep it going. Y'all can pick one. Pick one.
We want to see that one.
Yeah, turn it.
That's the good one.
Shows the ace.
Finally picked a good one, huh?
So the cannon continues to hold his own as he remains the leader for the week with a profit of more than $66,000. Joining him in the penthouse are Daniel Negreanu and Tony G, while Seaver and Viffer continue to share the outhouse.
Gonzo rebounded from his earlier misstep and continues to hang comfortably with these guys. With 2 nights to go, the cannon's in position to establish a solid benchmark for the NAPT passport.
Gonzo, we have 2 shows left. You're doing well. Are you going to keep doing what you're doing? You going to change your game plan?
Let us know what you're up to.
Yeah, let us know. Come on.
Please.
Well, the game plan is to collect as many of those chips and put them over here as much as I can, and that's the game plan. Very simple, straight to the point.
Daniel,
He's not weird at all, is he?
are you going to unleash that secret you told me about Tony G?
You're not supposed to out me right here.
Yeah,
But his
have
secret
to.
move? Well,
Yeah.
It depends. It depends. I don't know if Tony's
2
ready.
shows left.
2
That's
shows
it.
left. Yeah, we'll try to do it like Friday evening sometime.
Okay, that's it for tonight. I'm Amanda Leatherman saying goodbye for now. And remember, if you've got the cash and the guts, there's always a seat open at the big game. Good night, everybody.
If you want to appear on the big game and be a loose cannon, log on to PokerStars.net. There are free qualifying tournaments every day. For Stapes, this is Huff. See you tomorrow night.
Do you go on lots of dates with lots of women?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Scott, what do you think of the loose cannons play?
I think it's perfect.
He actually told me he would give you lessons.
Would you really? That would be awesome.
The preceding program was sponsored by PokerStars.net.